Rev up your engine. Well, when they say they don't make them like they used to, here's a perfect example. This old Volvo has over 300,000 miles on it. It still runs pretty good. And I gotta say, the guy got the deal of the century. He bought it for $1,500, and since then, he's put over 200,000 miles on it. Hey, now that's what I call a deal. And of course, it's a station wagon. Hey, people used to love station wagons. As you can see, it is a full-size station wagon. Look at the space you get. Matrix, it's like a squashed down station wagon, right? Well, this baby's full size. You can put an awful lot of crap in these things. What's a 93? It was made in Sweden. Back in those days, people were actually studying Volvo in the Swedes. They said, how come they have such good quality? And it turns out that it had to do with keeping their workers happy. Guys didn't just sit, go, turn, turn, turn. They had different jobs at different times, so they weren't bored out of their minds like most people in an assembly line. Japanese are a little bit different than the Swedish. The Swedish get bored more easily, I guess. Now, as we go under the hood, they generally all pop because they got the old-fashioned springs. You don't need a holder or you don't need any struts. They work for quite some time, too. Costs more money to make them that way, so now they got those cheap little rods to hold them up or hydraulics that break. This doesn't. Now, this is still the original engine with over 300,000 miles on it. Truthfully, he did have to have the transmission rebuilt. That's 300,000 miles. Okay, so the thing went 300,000 miles, right? You can't complain about that. And that was $2,000. He only paid $1,500 for the car. At 300,000 miles, he put $2,000 in the transmission. That's not a bad deal at all. Well, this guy obviously takes care of his vehicles, and he's not some kind of racing maniac. These are good engines. They're 4-cylinder engines, but back in the day, I had people in Texas. I'd take them for a ride one, and they'd say, oh, what's under the hood, a V8? I said, no, 4-cylinder. The race jockey guys do burnouts all the time and over-rev them. Yeah, they'll blow head gaskets. This guy obviously is taking care of it, and the proof that it's got over 300,000 miles, still the original engine. It says a lot about how strong these things were built. Now, granted, it's a big vehicle. He said he gets about 20 on the highway. It's an old car. Back in those days, that was seen as decent gas mileage. I mean, hey, he only paid $1,500 for the car, and he's gone 200,000 miles more. Who cares about miles per gallon when you're saving that kind of money? These old Volvos, let me tell you, not only are they solid made, but even an old one like this, they generally don't rust. Look at that. Still solid as can be. Now, understand one thing. These are unibodies. They don't have body on frame, they're unibody. And if you make them so they don't rust, in this case, look how long it's lasted. If you would have gotten a car that didn't have good rust preventative like the Swedes put on, take a Ford, Chrysler, maybe in a junkyard decades ago, it would have rusted away. There wouldn't be anything left. These things, they knew how to build them correctly. The problem that Volvo really had was, a few years after this, they really started to mass produce. Then they had a deal going with GM, and then later they had a deal going with Ford, and now they're owned by the Chinese. The problem was, they went from making a smaller amount of cars really well to starting to mass produce them, and they made a lot of screw-ups on the way when they mass produced them too much. That was the detriment of Volvo. It wasn't that they didn't make good cars. The problem was they made really good small amounts of cars, but when they upped the mass production, it just didn't pan out very well. As we look inside, of course, he's got seat covers on them. The old seats are going to be worn out, yeah, but the seat covers look nice. Now, the back still has the top that's original, but the bottom's got a seat cover. That part wore, but the top didn't. You get this old leather generally, it's going to crack. And being a station wagon, this is why people bought them. Everything, laundry, groceries. You put those things back. You can put sheetrock in there. Station wagons were always handy. Okay, let's see if it starts right up. There it goes. And as we look inside, the AC is still blowing cold, but he did have to have that worked on. Everybody knows Swedes and AC, not such a big deal. It doesn't get hot in Sweden, just like the older German cars. Their AC systems suck, but this is still blowing cold. Of course, we harken back to an older day. Look, there's nothing on the steering wheel but a horn. Not a million buttons and all that crap. Everything's simple. The fan, the heat, you turn it by yourself. right? He added the JVC stereo. The armrest, yeah, they all kind of fall apart when they get old, but it's still there. And it may be an old car, but it's cold in Sweden, and look, the heated seats still work. It even has a sunroof. They don't have a garage, so you can see the old paint's fading away. The clear coat's gone, some of the paint's gone, but still solid, hasn't rusted. We're talking 30 plus years. These rims are still in good shape. I saw a Chevy last week's 5 years old. The rims are shot already. They're all pitting and falling apart. Again, they don't make them like they used to. Now, a lot of people are going to think, oh, but an old car, how are you going to get parts for it? Hey, they sold so many of this design. You can still get parts all over the place for these vehicles, and you don't need parts all that often because they're pretty well made. Now look, most of the parts here you can see, they're still original equipment. He had the AC worked on, you can see the water pump been changed at times, but I mean, that kind of stuff goes. The alternator's been replaced once with a Bosch ream hand. You want to get a ream hand, get a Bosch. They're the best ones out there. Let's take it for a spin. No backup camera, so we'll use our head. The thing is though, this thing feels like a normal Volvo. They are what you could call stable shooting platforms. They are just solid, safe machines. That was one of the big things for Volvos. Extremely safe cars. Yeah, they were the first ones to really do airbags. You get in an old thing like this, it may be old, but I'll tell you what, I feel safe. I don't feel like I'm in a little tin can that something's gonna hit it and it's all over with. Then, as we take the turns here, hey, still handles perfectly fine. It's a station wagon, yeah. 300,000 plus miles. All right, what do I hear? Nothing. I don't hear wheel bearings. I don't hear transmission bearings. I don't hear engine bearings. These things are made. These are the type of Volvos that actually can go over 1 million miles if you took care of them. You're driving around here. Brakes and everything works fine. Really, for such an old car, it's pretty quiet. And I'm amazed the plastic isn't all cracked. Usually the plastic's all cracked, but this baby lives outside. And it's not cracked. We'll get to our little drag strip up here and we'll see what this turbo does. These are stable, safe vehicles. Of course, on the other hand, that makes them heavy. That's why they get 20 miles a gallon. Because they're heavy, safe vehicles. These are not lightweight vehicles, as we'll probably find out. There's nobody behind us, so we can take off. It's not going to go out like a rocket, I can tell you that. Here we go. And we're starting off. It's going. Now, not a race car, but you can see they rebuilt the tranny good, that shift's good, and the engine is just purring along. Hey, it's got 323,000 miles, and it's still pretty close to perfect. Now, unfortunately, I can't hook up my fancy scan tool because it's too old. It wasn't until 3 years after this car was made that they had OBD2, where I could tell you all kinds of technology about it. This doesn't have that capability whatsoever, but in most cases, it really didn't need them because they very rarely broke down. The Swedes that put them together in Sweden, they did a good job and they just tended to last. Oh look, the visor's broken. Oh well, this one isn't though. This is the one you care about. The one that's over the driver's head. It'd be a 4-cylinder engine, but hey, it idles pretty smooth. And again, not a race vehicle, but hey, you cruise all day at 80 miles an hour. They were really well-designed vehicles. And people love the space in these. But of course, everyone into the SUV craze, and they all know what SUVs are crossovers, whatever the heck they want to call a crossover. These station wagons served the same purpose for decades. 2 years ago, he put the seats down and he camped in when he went cross country. They are long. There is a lot of space in these things. So here we go. Take a little corners. The corners fine. I'm not worried about the wheels falling off. This is still a very reliable station wagon, even with 323,000 miles on it. And sure, with that kind of mileage, it burns a little bit of oil. He might have to put in 2 or 3 quarts in between oil changes, maybe every 1,000 miles or something. But hey, it's got 323,000 miles. It doesn't smoke out the back. It's just old age. Any engine with that kind of mileage is going to burn some kind of oil unless it was perfectly made. So there we have it, smooth running even when it's sitting in park. He paid $1,500 for it 18 years ago, put 200,000 miles on it. The only big money was he had to have the transmission rebuilt 20,000 miles ago. When it had 300,000 miles, that only cost him $2 grand. And here it stands, still runs great. Unfortunately, Volvo doesn't make them like this anymore. And since the Chinese took over, they claim they're going to make electrics and hybrid electric cars in the future. Who knows what'll come of that? People aren't buying the electric cars. I just read an article that American car dealerships are now refusing to get electric cars. They're telling the companies that build them, Ford, GM, Chrysler, don't send us anymore until we sell the ones we have, because people aren't buying them. So maybe Volvo should have stuck to their guns and built cars reliable as this. They were known as reliable, safe cars forever, and now as they've got more European snooty cars, even though the Chinese own them, maybe they took the wrong direction. They should have kept making these solid tanks that go down the road forever, and they'd be selling a lot more of them if you ask me. But I mean, what do I know? I just fix them. Who knows? This thing might get 500, might go 1,000,000 miles. You never know. The new ones, you can forget that. So for his $1,500 investment almost 20 years ago and 200,000 miles, I would say he got more than his money's worth out of this thing. And it's still going. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.